I'm Jovan from Emerge. We are building New Zealand's first, best, and only digital bank alternative. So we're aiming to build something to give the big Aussie banks a good run for their money. And we've been working at this for probably close to 3 years now, since we started at the kitchen table with Concept as two co-founders, and seeing that there would be a massive opportunity and a huge amount of problems that could be solved for a large number of people, and that there was a chance to build something that would help New Zealand move forward in a really big, important area where we are really behind the rest of the world. So that was kind of the genesis of that original vision, or our purpose. And so the tools that we've built to do that, the first one is called Square One. And you can think of that like your kid's first bank account. We've had that in market for 2.5 years and built that up to now just over 200,000 customers in New Zealand. So call it 80,000 parents, 120,000 kids. And we're arguably now the incumbent for youth bank accounts in New Zealand. When you think about getting your kid their first bank account, there's a pretty good chance it'll be Square One. So we think that's really cool, and we're really pleased with the amount of heavy lifting that Square One is doing in the financial capability space. And, we set out to try and improve our financial capability as a nation. That's one of our cornerstones, I guess. And really stoked to see 2.5 years in, keeping a really good sort of like 4.8, 4.9 star average on the app stores. And the sort of stories that come back from parents are all massively uplifting about parents seeing their kids progress. So that's really cool. And that's what keeps the team going, for sure, seeing all that amazing feedback coming back to us. And then the bigger vision was never just could you build the world's best pocket money app, or how do you become the incumbent for a first bank account in New Zealand. Bigger vision was always, could you build a bank? So we're not a bank yet, and we need to be really clear about that in all of our comms. Emerge, which is this brand, that's that bigger vision coming to life now. And we've spent the last kind of just under a year, I wouldn't say in stealth with it, but we've spent the last year kind of building that in stealth while growing Square One. And we've launched Merge now as a brand publicly just on 3 months ago. And the first segment that we're targeting with that is small business, because we could see again that was the next biggest area of need and the next biggest pool of customers who just aren't recognized by the big banks, who have these terrible problems caused by this 1980s bank tech, and so much friction, so much manual admin, so many problems that we knew that we'd be able to solve. So starting with that vertical of small business, and that's 97% of all Kiwi companies. That's our first area that we're going to address. Then we'll add personal accounts maybe later this year, and then Square One will become a product of Emerge. So you'll have your business accounts, your personal accounts, your kids' accounts all in one place, and everything that you need. The barriers to entry in a space like this are absolutely phenomenal. And that's a big part of the reason why we haven't seen any challenger banks or startup banks come through. Like the most recent one is Kiwi Bank, quarter of a century ago. It's pretty capital intensive, so it's required us to raise quite a bit of funding to get the venture off the ground. And I guess even right at the start, we had to think about, how do you go about building this product? The initial idea was for a wearable that our kids could like wear to the beach to pay for an ice cream, was kind of where we started. And because we could see that the problems around were, we've moved into this digital world, rightly or wrongly, that's not really the question. It's, we've moved into that world now, and how are we going to teach our kids about money? So once we started thinking about a wearable, we quickly found, okay, if you want to have a wearable, you'll need something like an app where you can check the balance. You'll need to be able to acquire payments. You'll need to get a scheme license, because you're going to need to be able to issue cards. And then you start with that little kernel of an idea, and then quickly goes out to an iceberg, and you end up at, well, if you want to have a wearable, then you need to start by building a bank. So that was one of those big light bulbs. But yeah, in that journey, the challenges have just been kind of consistent and frequent and massive. And I guess the theme across the whole thing is having really good clarity on your purpose and your why, your vision, those kind of softer elements, as well as the elements like the technical pieces around commercialization and regulatory matters and those pieces. But it really, for me, for us as two co-founders, and for me personally, needs to start with that really personal, meaningful, your why, your purpose. And if that's there, then I think it kind of becomes not that it's impossible to fail, but it becomes that there is no other option. If you're driven by that, the purpose, the why, and there's a big overarching purpose element like that, then no matter what the challenge or what the hurdle, you have the drive to overcome it and find a way. It started with myself and Jamie, two co-founders at the kitchen table, and that's kind of part of the story. Then we were able to make the first couple of hires. We couldn't have done that without getting our seed funding in place, which came largely from the New Zealand angel community. So there's a bunch of angel clubs up and down the country, and not everyone's familiar, so I can maybe talk about that for a second. But it's kind of like a Dragon's Den or a Shark Tank kind of idea, not to use a cliche, but it's a little bit like that, where you come to these angel clubs, they'll meet maybe once a month and hear 5 or 6 pitches on one evening after work. So yeah, you reach out to them, and that was how we got that initial seed funding, and that enabled us to make the first couple of hires. So then it went from 2 of us to 4 or 5 of us in that first phase. But even then, we always said that felt like there was a team of more like 50 or 60 because of all of the additional support. So we became a MasterCard principal issuer, which is a license holder effectively with your own scheme license to issue cards. And so we had some great support, and we still do, from MasterCard in that regard. Although we are aiming to challenge the banks, we also need to work with and get some help and engagement, and we need to build tech that connects with the banks. You need good engagements and networks through that part of the world. We had to go and meet with regulators, and we couldn't have done that without the help of our lawyers. And so quite quickly you can see that sort of support network really builds out. Again, it's like the little tip of the iceberg, with Square One in market for 2.5 years, and Emerge now in market after a year of building that, with 200,000 customers on Square One alone. It's pretty remarkable if you think about, filling Eden Park a few times, and all of that goodwill, and, the whole country kind of responding really positively to the brand and the mission and what we're trying to achieve. So yeah, it feels like there's a pretty big cast of support and a big team behind it, and lots of people willing it on. And so our cap table, all of our shareholders, has grown significantly now to include institutional money, from the angels to institutions and everything in between. So there's a lot more people who are supporting, and we've built out a pretty punchy board now on the governance side of the business. If the question is like, have we just done it alone? It's absolutely not. There's the network and the support and the people who want to get behind and see a Kiwi business thrive, that wants to do something better for all New Zealanders, is pretty massive. A lot of people on the cap table, for example, who have done well and now seeing the opportunity to give back and support us to build something better for New Zealand. So yeah, massive amount of support. Right from the start, Jamie and I wanted to build something where a team would coalesce around that vision, and for it to be somewhere where people want to work. There's a whole bunch of really well-known, almost cliche kind of ideas around this stuff. One that I love is Richard Branson, like, train your people well enough so that they can leave, and treat them well enough so that they don't want to. So right from the outset, we wanted to build something where culture was at the heart of it. When everyone is aligned on that purpose and the vision, it becomes really easy to select the right people. And then I think, like all things, it's kind of finding that balance. So it's a big topic around should you have work from home? Should you be fully remote? Should you be in office? And companies kind of went fully remote and now are going back to fully in office as a policy. We've found a really good middle ground where it's not just thinking about should you be in the office, it's thinking about, well, why would you be in the office and why would you work from home? So we've built a little matrix of really, really simple thinking about work that you can do on your own, which is kind of BAU, your admin type stuff, and doesn't require any collaboration. And it's work, so that's work that can be done from home. And then thinking about work that is new projects or something that's outside the box and or that requires you to work with other people, and then batching up all of that stuff, not just working through an inbox and seeing what happens, but actually consciously batching up the work and going, okay, these are all the things that I can do from home that don't need me to interact with anyone else. And that maybe for an engineer or a developer, for example, they block their time up in like 4 or 6 hour blocks, not 20-minute blocks. And on those days, batch up that work where you're going to have your focus time or where you've got stuff that doesn't require other people. And those are the days for working from home. And then the stuff where, we're getting around a whiteboard and sharing a meal as a team or things like that, whatever it might be, the new projects, the collaborative stuff, that's where we come into the office. So kind of finding that balance rather than just going, the policy is now everyone works from home, or the policy is now everyone works from the office. So there's a bunch of stuff that we're doing around that. And I think also giving people a really high degree of autonomy. You don't hire geniuses and then tell them what to do and how to do it. There's a few of those kind of steps on that curve where you go from, everyone's a generalist. You've got two co-founders, and as a co-founder, you're the accountant, you're the web designer, you're sweeping the sheds, and we still do that. You're the designer, you're the marketing and sales person, you're the fundraiser. That kind of list of roles goes on and on. You're the lawyer, it goes on and on and on. And then as you kind of start to progress, you start bringing in people who are more specialized in those individual verticals. And it's just like a massive relief to be able to have people who are way more skilled than you and way more knowledgeable and specialists in that vertical who are like really hitting their straps at the sort of coming into the peak of their career, to be able to hand those individual pieces off to those people and give them the tools, the environment, the A team around them that they need to succeed and deliver and do the best work of their life. That's our approach to culture. I think one thing I've observed over the years, and this isn't my first business either. I've had another business. I was in London for about 12 years and had my first business over there, which was a chartered accounting practice and financial advice firm. And so I had some experience building that through to an exit over 5 years. And one of the things I observed and still do, I think the reason some businesses or a lot of small businesses stay as small businesses, and not that that's a good or a bad thing. There's a lot to be said for a lifestyle business or something that isn't going through the tremendous stress of trying to build a billion-dollar company. But one of the things that I've observed, I think, is where sort of owner-operators really struggle with trust and struggle to hand things over and I've had friends say this to me when we've been talking about growing their business, well, no one's ever going to do it as good as me. So I think that's definitely one of our strengths that we play to, is being able to bring those A players in. Then really it takes a high degree of trust in your team and the ability to trust that they're doing the right thing, which again comes right back to that purpose alignment at the bottom of it. It's another old saying, but tough times don't last and tough people do. And there's a lot of tough people in Taitokerau. So, we've got to keep going, and better times will emerge. These big economic cycles are just that. And now that I've got a couple of grey hairs, I can maybe speak with a little bit of experience, having gone through a couple of those cycles, both here and in the UK, in business, and observed some of the effects. And with my previous business in the UK as well, we launched that right in the absolute bottom of the GFC. If you can make a go of it in those tough times, then you're really well served for when that economic cycle, that big macro global swing, starts to head back in the right direction. If you've come through that tough time, it can be incredible. It just feels like the brakes just come off. And that was certainly what happened with the first business in the UK. We really had to run that so lean, and you're just kind of in the trenches every day, scrapping for every penny. So I've definitely been there and done that. And if you can make something that works in that environment, when the tide turns and the brakes come off, it's a really, really exciting time. So yeah, the advice would be power on.